Hey, folks. We'll try to tear you away from the headlines and keep the Senate vibe going. So bear with me, John.
That's all right.
So, all right, I have a question for everybody here. If you could magically rid Congress of one single member, House or Senate, who's the most active roadblock to crypto legislation, who would that be? That's pretty clear, I guess. Well, you got the guy who's trying to take her seat, so lucky you.
If I can't win this crowd over, I got to get out of politics right now.
So clearly, John Deaton was already familiar in industry circles, prominent lawyer in the ongoing battles over the existence of digital assets in the U.S., especially noteworthy in the Ripple XRP fight. But now he stepped into the political arena, of course, in Massachusetts, the Lion's Den, possibly. So we're going to get into your crypto history, John. But first, the big question. You've still got a Republican primary to win in September. Is that right?
That's correct.
So assuming you do, can you realistically beat Senator Warren on that turf?
Listen, if there was no path to victory, I would not be doing this. I wouldn't waste my time. I wouldn't waste the money I put in it, the sacrifice that my family's going through. You know, my 5-year-old daughter and Christy flew here because I'm spending time away from them just to make sure I spend time. I would not do that if I could not win. And I can tell you, it's not the widest path to victory, and it might be uphill, but there's a definite path to victory. I'll just highlight a couple things. 64% of voters in Thank you. 64% of voters in Massachusetts are independent. They're called unenrolled. She has a 41% approval rating. When she ran for president, she came in third in the Democratic primary. She couldn't even take second place in her state.
In the state.
So she is much more vulnerable. The only other thing I would add is that former Republican Governor Charlie Baker, had he ran, the polls showed that he crushes her. It's not even close, which proves with the right candidate, she will be beat. And I am the right candidate.
So you've easily outpaced the other Republicans in raising campaign money with, at last count, it was 1.3 million, and maybe more than that, according to the disclosures. But Warren had, at that point, 17 million. So you say you can compete, but how do you compete?
Well, actually, right now, I outraised her in the first quarter, even though I only had half of the time. She has 4.2 million in the bank last reported, okay, and I had 1.3. Okay. So I'm behind her, but not behind her as many would think. Okay. She was out raising more money for Katie Porter and Sherrod Brown in Ohio than she was raising for herself. She's got to defend herself now at home, and that's good news for everybody.
So let's back up a bit because we want to hear how you got here.
Sure.
First, two questions. How did you get into crypto as an issue, and how did you decide to run against Senator Warren?
Well, Senator Warren has made crypto an issue. I want everybody to think about this. I've called her the crypto candidate. When people ask me, am I pro-crypto, I say no. I'm pro-freedom. The freedom to choose how you deem fit for your family and what to own. In Massachusetts, it's ground zero in illegal immigration. It's the third highest to buy a home in the country. It's either second or third highest in the country for cost of living. Sometimes it beats California for number 2. We have an opioid crisis, foreign wars, inflation, debt. With all those things going on, why did she decide to wake up one morning and say, I'm going to announce my announcement for a third term, and I'm going to run against crypto? There's a lot of real world things that need to be addressed, and her focus on crypto proves that she is now the #1 lobbyist for the banking industry in America.
Interesting. So I'm sure people here would like to know what you're actually invested in crypto.
Well, I am invested in 75% of my net worth is in Bitcoin. I own XRP. I own some Ethereum. I own a small amount of Cardano and a small amount of quant and real estate and other assets.
You were making an interesting point to me about your association with XRP. You want to get into that? How your name is associated with it?
Well, listen, it's not like
yourself with it.
I don't mind it, but people called me the XRP attorney because I sued the SEC when the gross government overreach called XRP itself, the underlying token, an unregistered security. There was no case law to support that. It was gross overreach, so I sued them on behalf of XRP holders. Although I owned more in Bitcoin at the time, I was labeled the XRP attorney, and that's fine. I don't care about the label because the XRP holders, to me, are some of the most educated, devoted, crypto, knowledgeable holders in the world. So, but it was just ironic. Everyone wants to put a label on you. You know, I was out there saying, listen, the danger here is government overreach. Forget the underlying asset. And you had Bitcoin maxis and others call me out and say, oh, well, you know, he's got that S coin. I can't say it, my daughter's here. And I was like, listen, government overreach is the danger. They can come after Bitcoin, maybe not the same way, but they can come after Bitcoin. I said that 3 years ago, and look, my opponent's bill that 20% of US senators already agreed to is a de facto ban of self-custody of Bitcoin and crypto assets in the United States. So it shows you that government overreach is what we need to fight.
Speaking of your opponent, I don't know if people are following the news this immediately, but she just issued another letter targeting crypto, specifically crypto tied to the fentanyl trade. So she is staying in the crypto headlines
Apparently
today.
Crypto is the blame for everything. So according to her, but listen, she's losing the battle and she's losing the narrative. The White House today pivoted on crypto, said now all of a sudden they want to work with the crypto industry. So the good news is she's losing. It's going to be her and Gary Gensler is going to be the entire anti-crypto army.
So people, I think, are definitely familiar with Elizabeth Warren's stance regarding crypto, but so let's get into your policy priorities and what you would bring to the Senate.
Well, the
contrast.
Sure. A nonpartisan person. I'm fiscally conservative. I'm socially moderate. I've never been a partisan person. I think the real danger in this country is that you have political elites, career politicians like Senator Warren, who just fuel division amongst us because they want to maintain power. They want to keep power. And I think people are sick and tired of that. One of the first bills I'm going to propose is a bill of term limits. I just signed a pledge to institute term limits. Here's my approach. I agree, we need it. If you've been in DC for 12 years and you can't effectuate change in more than a decade, it's time to leave and give someone else who has the skill set the opportunity to do it. And so I think that's something I bring. Elizabeth Warren, another thing that separates us is loyalty. She has loyalty to an agenda and to a party. I have loyalty to my country. So I have one test. Is it good for Massachusetts and good for America? If it is, call it a Democratic proposal, I don't care. Call it a Republican proposal, I don't care. If it's good for this country, I'll be all in for it.
So we've spent a lot of time at this event talking about the potential of crypto voters as a sort of a new and emerging bloc. Do you think voters care especially about crypto in Massachusetts?
Yeah, listen, from what I've learned, Coinbase has over 800,000 customers in Massachusetts alone. We know that before the spot ETF, the last estimate was that in America, 52 million Americans had crypto exposure. If you count the spot ETF, that estimate now is up to 80 to 90 million Americans have some form of exposure to this crypto asset. When Larry Fink of BlackRock starts talking about tokenization of real world assets, as the largest asset manager in the world, when he describes Bitcoin as a safe haven and then just launched the most successful spot ETF in history, you can imagine a banker making that kind of money off that one asset is probably going to think, well, maybe we could do it for Ethereum, and maybe we could do it with XRP or these other tokens. And I think that that's why the assets class is here to stay.
You recently filed a friend of the court brief in Coinbase's attempt to get the higher courts to consider a question at the heart of the legal debate in the U.S. over whether tokens are securities. What made you weigh in there, and what was the point you were trying to make?
Well, the point is the token holder rarely has representation. So when I got involved in the Ripple case, Ripple's a very successful company. They were going to hire the best attorneys, and those attorneys had a duty to Ripple and the executives of Ripple and the employees and shareholders of Ripple, not to XRP holders. And the SEC certainly wasn't a voice. They weren't actually protecting investors, they were causing the damage. So it was about giving the voice, honestly, something that I am, the underdog, the little guy, and making sure that person or that woman, that guy, that family, that small business, that developer has a voice in the court. And so I did it in Ripple, and I did it in the library case. I was amicus for Naomi Brockwell, an independent journalist, and doing it for the Coinbase, so that I don't want Coinbase to speak for customers. We can speak for ourselves, and I don't want the SEC certainly speaking for us.
Is there an easy summary of the legal argument you're trying to make there?
Well, the legal argument is that the SEC is engaging in regulation by enforcement. You have the Ripple decision, you have the Rakoff decision, you have the Coinbase summary judgment decision, and there's this debate amongst these federal district judges, and the Second Circuit needs to come down and clarify what really is the law of the land. And so that's what I think we need.
We talked about your possibilities against Elizabeth Warren, but as I mentioned, you also have a primary coming up. What's your prediction for how you do? That's September 3rd, is that right?
Yes, and can tell you I'm very confident that I'm going to be the Republican nominee. And you want to know who else is confident I'll be the Republican nominee? Elizabeth Warren, because so far she has sent 9 emails. I had a friend in Texas call me. He's a Democrat that's a friend of mine, and he calls me on my cell phone. He's laughing. He's like, dude, I have to read this to you. And he starts reading me a paragraph of an email from Senator Warren describing me as a serious threat, a credible threat. She also called me a threat to democracy and all this other kind of nonsense, but I got her attention. On the biggest political day in Massachusetts each year is St. Patrick's Day breakfast. She got up, uttered my name, started making jokes with her friends about me. And let me tell you something now. If someone doesn't have a chance to win, you usually don't start making jokes about how they don't have a chance to win. You just would ignore them. So I have her attention. I will be the nominee, and I'm telling you, we're going to shock the world. I'm going to retire Elizabeth Warren. I feel it in my core.
Do you anticipate, not just in your race, but for Republicans, across the country, will the news just emerging while we were backstage, will the news of former President Trump's convictions cause headwinds?
I think what it's going to do is going to continue fueling the division that we have. Look, I'll say publicly, like most Americans, I am disappointed about the choice. But I will tell you this, it makes these Senate races even more important, like the one I'm in, because it's going to take actual senators, lawmakers, congresspeople, nonpartisan, to do the job that needs to be done. We have serious problems. Nearly 80% of all US dollars has been printed in the last 3.5 years. Now, people are going to think I'm making that up or exaggerating that. That's staggering. 34 trillion. We spend $1 trillion in interest alone. That's more than the national defense. And I'm looking forward to saying to Senator Warren, whose one answer to every problem is tax the wealthy and tax the rich. Okay, Senator, let's take every billionaire in America's money from them, every dime. There's 759 of them. They have $5 trillion. Let's take it all. We paid our interest on our debt 5 years only. Hasn't accomplished nothing. So I'm looking forward to showing her that arguing and fighting against the rich and the wealthy is not the same as fighting for the poor and the middle class. It's a different approach. I'm someone who overcame poverty. I know what it's like. I want to lift people up just like I lifted myself up. She could keep pitting American versus American and tearing people down. I believe people are going to pick my approach over hers.
Because it's near and dear to my heart as a Washington sort of policy and regulatory reporter for CoinDesk, I have to ask you about the sort of the nuts and bolts of what's going on in Congress right now, and if you were to join the Senate for the next session, you may be considering the next version of the Fit 21, and what's your thinking on that legislation or similar legislation that's out there now?
Well, unfortunately, I said a year ago that we would not get legislation, even stablecoin legislation, most likely because of an election year, because of the division, until the second half or near the end of next year in 2025. The bottom line is we have to do the job. We can't try to pigeonhole laws from 1933 and a 1946 test from the Supreme Court and try to apply that to modern day blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, or any other technology moving forward. So what we need is a Congress who has that one test. Is it good for America? Mm-hmm. Like, let's protect consumers, let's protect customers, let's get rid of fraud. Let's punish fraudsters severely, but let's innovate and let's keep innovation here in America. For years now, for 3 years, I've been talking to people who are entrepreneurs, and they've been saying, we're just not going to offer it to U.S. citizens. We're just going to exclude U.S. investors. That's our goal. That's what we're going to do because we can't afford to set aside millions of dollars to fight the SEC. And that's got to change. America has to lead. And my state, Massachusetts, when technology is advanced, is always a winner because we've always been the best innovators.
Well, unfortunately, we're running a little low on time here, but the good news is that, so it's your lucky day. John is going to be appearing right after this in the town square, if everyone knows where that is, over there. To take questions directly. So, come over there, keep the conversation going, ask him the smarter questions that I didn't come up with. But so we're going to head over there here in just a few minutes. I think that's at 5 o'clock. But in the meantime, why don't you help me thank John Deaton for joining us at Consent?
John Deaton for Senate.com, please. I have to get it out. And